From CBS 47 and Fox 30, it's time for This Week in the 904.
Welcome to This Week in the 904. I'm your host, Emily Turner. This is a community affairs show. We focus on politics, public policy, and issues that affect our local communities. And joining us today is Jacksonville City Councilman Kevin Carrico. You represent District 4. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm happy and honored.
I appreciate it. So for folks who maybe don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm son of an Army colonel, so grew up all over the country, all over the world. Settled in Jacksonville, went to Mandarin High, then off to Florida State University. So always got to give a Noel shout out anytime I can. I've been back in Jacksonville since 2009. I work for the Boys and Girls Clubs in Northeast Florida, running all their strategy and fund development, so helping out kids reach their full potential. Got elected to City Council in 2020, and I got reelected in 2023, and I'm currently serving as the Vice President of the City Council.
And you're, so District 4, and I'm interested too because I want to let's talk more about Boys and Girls Club, but District 4, what part of town is that? What makes that unique?
District 4 is the South Side. I call it the heart of the South Side. So we're not San Marco, we're not Arlington, we're not the beaches, and we're not Mandarin. We're right in the middle. It's kind of that old school South Side that was developed in the 60s and 70s, kind of one of the first suburbs to downtown Jacksonville. And we're a unique district. We're in the heart of it all. You can get anywhere. A lot of special people, special neighborhoods. It's kind of a working class, just proud district. People who love Jacksonville. I'm happy to represent it and enjoy serving my constituents every day.
What made you decide to run for office?
Well, I just knew that I had more to give to the community. I had been working at Boys and Girls Club probably 5 years and just really loved service and community service. Before that, I was the vice president over at the Claire White Mission. So helping people reach their full potential, empowering people, and just serving the community is just built in me, I think. It's just a part of who I am. So when the opportunity came to run for a council seat, it was a special election. My predecessor, Scott Wilson, resigned to run for the clerk of courts. It opened up a special election. So I did some praying, did some thinking, raised some money, and the rest is history, I think.
Yeah, and how do you like it so far?
I love it. I love it. The best part about being on council is really serving the constituents. It's the part that nobody sees. It's 90% of the work. It's going to the community meetings, hearing the issues in the district, finding out where you can plug in and where you can help and just be that conduit to city government, because it's hard sometimes when people find problems and have issues with their communities, they need help. That's when you call my office, and that's when we get in gear and solve those problems. But we don't see those on the news every day. We just usually see the controversies and the fun stuff. I'm sure we'll get into that later.
Guilty as charged, that's right. Well, so when it comes to the Boys and Girls Club, what do you do for them?
Sure, I'm the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, really just looking for opportunities to serve more kids, to help with our growth. When I started in the organization about 9 years ago, we had 12 locations across Northeast Florida. Now we have 59 locations in 5 counties, so we have grown over the years just to a point where we're serving about 6,000 kids every single day in one of our 59 locations. We're in Clay County, we're in Alachua County, St. Johns County, Duval, and Nassau.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea you had that much growth.
Yeah, about 750 employees, about a $30 million budget, and it's real work. It's realizing the potential in kids and helping them find a way to make it.
How did you find your way there?
The Boys and Girls Club, it's back to my heart, back to just being someone who wants to serve. So I was at Claire White Mission, had been there about 4 years as their vice president, and a dear friend of mine, our CEO, Mr. Paul Martinez, went over to the Boys and Girls Club to run that outfit, and he said, I need someone like you I can trust. Will you come on in here? Here's my vision. Stay for 3 to 5 years. Let's grow this thing. And 9 years later, we're still there. We're still growing. We're still serving kids. And couldn't think of another career path that I'd rather be on.
Oh my gosh. Well, interesting with your work with Claire White Mission, you've really interfaced quite a bit then with the homeless population,
Correct.
which is one of the major challenges specifically with downtown, but really all over. What is your take on it with your experience?
Yeah, homelessness is tough. It's something that has been around since the beginning of time. And every community in the country, every community in the world, I think, deals with homelessness. So no one has quite yet found that silver bullet on how to totally eradicate it. I don't know that we ever will. But being human about ways to solve those issues, to me, it's more about prevention, which is why I love working with kids and workforce development and helping people to gain skills so they can be productive in society. When you fall through the gap, when you fall through the net and end up in a place where you can't sustain and you can't find housing, that's crisis mode. And that's when we have other providers that can come in and try to first, if you have addiction problems, let's solve that. If you have mental health issues, let's solve that. So it's very complex, it's very complicated, and it's tough to decide really what is the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people say, oh, homelessness, which infers that the issue is that they don't have a home, but really there are primary factors involved with addiction and mental health and that kind of thing. This is a major priority for the mayor. Her approach and the amount of money she's had allocated to that. Do you agree with her methodology, or you think there's a different way?
I don't agree with $10 million for putting homeless people in hotel rooms. I think that's a temporary fix, and that's a lot of money to shell out from the taxpayers to really just provide a Band-Aid. It's not as solution-driven as I'd like to think. I think investing in young people and kids and being on the preventative side. Anxious to see how the JFRD program works. Right now, those guys stepped up. You know, we needed someone that could be on the ground and meet people where they're at, and JFRD didn't hesitate, just like they do. They ran into the fire and said, hey, we'll help out. So that's a relatively new program, and we're going to monitor that and see how that works. But past President Salem has done a great job funding what we call the MHOP program. It really is focused on people that have chronic mental health issues, that if you know the system, there are some people that are just constantly rotating in and out, in and out, in and out. And to get those people really the mental health help that they need, that can eliminate a problem. When you go downtown, if you've worked downtown, you've been down there for a long time like I have, it's some of the same faces that you see out on those corners. And you know, when I was at Clara White, I had several conversations just in the breakfast line with people, because we had programs that helped. We had job creation programs and training programs. And some people just said, Mr. Kevin, I don't really want to go through your program. I'm happy living my life in the woods, and I don't want people to mess with me, and I'm happier there than I would be somewhere else. And you can't change the mindset. So you just have to attack it from all angles, and hopefully with the great nonprofit community that we have in Jacksonville, we can take a stab at it. I don't think our city is any worse than any others, though. If you look at Tampa and Miami, Atlanta, even Charlotte, I think our homelessness rates are lower. So to call it an epidemic, I'm not sure if it's there. It's definitely an issue. It's definitely something that my colleagues on council are committed to helping. Whether or not we go the route that the current administration wants to go or not is yet to be determined, I guess.
Well, and there's a lot more to talk about, whether it's that or it's anything else. And one of the things I want to make sure we hit on, and we'll be doing this as soon as we come back from the break, is we talk about downtown, the particular community, the committee that you are in charge of. So we'll have that just after the break.
From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on This Week in the 904. Today, our guest is City Council member Kevin Carrico, District 4, but one of the committees that you're in charge of, and correct me if I'm saying this incorrectly, the Future of Downtown, isn't that what it's on?
The Special Committee on the Future of Downtown.
The Special Committee on the Future of Downtown. Boy, that's a committee I think a lot of people would love to sit in on those meetings, because I feel like there's also 700 of them. Have we done this over and over again? What is your task? Like, what are you guys tasked with doing? And then where do you kind of stand on that?
Sure. The committee was launched, I believe, in July of last year by past President Salem. And the initial charge was just to take a global look at downtown and figure out anything we could do as a city, no boundaries, to make the process better, to make downtown better, to make it more welcoming and easier, I guess, for outside developers and people to come in and give us the infrastructure we need to be able to get, over that 10,000 person downtown. That's been a goal for several years. We've got a lot under construction. I think we're tracking toward that. But what I've found in just having conversations with people that are trying to be on the front end of this, the development community, is it's just tough. It's just tough. There's a lot of government red tape and a lot of things that go on, behind the scenes in order to get to a point where you can build a skyscraper or build an apartment complex or build a new commercial venture down there. So we just started with having listening sessions. We had all the downtown stakeholders. We created a list and had them come down every meeting. We met about once a month, and they just shared, what was working, what wasn't working. We got to a point where we have a nice one-sheeter now that's ready to be moved toward legislation. Some cleanup things that make things easier, to give some more staff to the Downtown Investment Authority. I know they're looking at a succession plan for their current CEO, Ms. Lori Boyer. So we'll be having new leadership, assumably in the next 6 months or so, and just trying to get it to a place where we're not the city of renderings, where these renderings come true, and that we can all be proud of this downtown. If you just look around at our competitors, our competitive cities in the Southeast, everyone has a downtown signature street. They have bars and entertainment venues and food venues and hotels that are flourishing, and we have some pieces, but we just haven't wrapped it all together to make it a point where young people want to come move to Jacksonville. You know, they go off to college and they're like, all right, where do I want to go? Nashville or Jacksonville? I think they're going to Nash Vegas right now. They're not looking at Jacksonville.
We've experienced that trying to recruit people here. I get it.
I am.
When it comes to the one sheet, I don't know if you can share any of that, but like what were the findings that are on this one sheet?
A lot of it was just, so there's a legal process involved, and a lot of it is around city incentives and things called rev grants and completion grants. And we found that a lot of times those programs and those things just got wrapped up in government red tape, and we didn't have enough attorneys on staff that could dedicate enough time. So we're going to try to increase the FTE to have a full-time attorney just for downtown development and growth that can read over contracts, negotiate contracts, and just look at that. We looked at parking issues. We looked at just a number of things that can make us grow, and just we haven't gotten there yet.
Will whatever you guys come up with, will that change the way the Downtown Investment Authority operates? Give them more power, less power? Could that alter?
Yes, one suggestion that I'm behind is giving them a little more autonomy and really setting a hard number for their budget on what we really have for incentives. Instead of just, okay, let's throw an idea at the wall, see if it sticks, move it toward council. Let's just say, hey, $10 million a year, whatever the number is, this is what you've got. If you need more, you're going to have to come through legislative. But you can use this money to just go out on your own without having to have a lot of back and forth, and that should shrink in the time for some of these smaller projects that the news medias don't pick up, just facade grants and improving the way parking lots look and the way buildings look, and just making things more beautiful downtown. We can get some of the bureaucracy out of that and then focus on some of the big items like the Laura Street Trio, which is one that really consumed the better part of my fall this year.
The never-ending saga of the Laura Street Trio. Where do you stand on that?
So I've, from the beginning, said that I wasn't going to give up on it. It got to a point where the former owner had been back and forth with the mayor's administration, this one and the past administrations, to try to land on some kind of a deal that would work, that would make the numbers work, that the city could swallow as far as investing in that project, and just wasn't able to get to the finish line. So that developer has sold to a new company called Live Oak, and they are currently working with the administration. So I was just kind of the jockey, I guess, just moving things along. Like, I wouldn't let it hit a brick wall. Anytime it hit a brick wall, I would step in and say, no, we have to make this happen. We have to do it. That is the cornerstone of our business center downtown, Laura and Forsyth, like right there in the middle of it. And it's
but
just
why
three
does it
empty
have
buildings.
to be the Laura Street Trio as it is with the historic building? Why can't it be something different? It's because some people are clinging to it, like it's got to be this building, it's historic, it's whatever, and other people are like, knock it down, let's do something else.
That's the tough thing about being an elected official. Everything you do splits the room. There are history buffs that came in and just pleaded with us and said, you cannot, this is designed by, was it Henry Clutho, one of the famous architects, and you just can't take it away because it's symbolic of the regrowth of Jacksonville after the fire, and it's just a big part of the history. And then there are people that said, knock it down, let's just build something modern and new, giant glass tower, anything you could think of. But I do believe it is important to protect some of that history and to make it a signature, something that's beautiful, something that we can look to and say, hey, look how that came back to life. It's maybe the story of the Jaguars. We're going to come back to life and keep winning. We
can hope.
Coach Cohen today, 3:30. We're looking forward to welcoming him to town at the press conference later.
Yeah. Well, the Laura Street Trio, how many iterations has that been? Like 6?
It's been since the early 2000s, I think, since people have been trying to put something together to really bring that back. And I think with the new development group, I think we have a good shot at it, and I'm sure they'll look at all possibilities. Either it's 100% historic preservation or maybe a combination, or if it is a tear down rebuild, let's let the experts, who are the developers, decide what they think can be profitable and then what can the city stomach as far as an incentive, because when you're dealing with historic buildings, it's not going to be cheap. Even the demolition alone is going to cost a lot of money. If it is demolished, you can't just implode on a downtown corner, 3 buildings. You have to basically take it apart brick by brick.
Yeah, the Berkman Plaza that lasted forever.
Yeah.
Well, coming up right after the break, we've got much more to talk about. One of the things that we're going to hit on is garbage fees. We're going to talk about the potential increase there, as well as some other things that have to do with the administration. So stick around. We'll be right back.
From CBS 47 and Fox 30, you're watching This Week in the 904.
Welcome back to This Week in the 904. I'm Emily Turner. We have with us today Kevin Carrico, City Council member from District 4. Let's leave maybe council and talk mayor's office and garbage fees.
You're going to get into the mess, huh? Get into the waste.
We're wading into it. Yeah, the first big series I did was the return to recycling, and I'm like, I know far more than I would like to know about how garbage works. So for the backstory, why don't you give folks kind of an update about this Meridian vote and what's going on?
Yeah, sure. There's two things going on really with the waste pickup, which of course is an essential service of government. We have to provide that. It's police, it's fire, it's sanitation. That's what we owe our citizens in order to be a healthy, safe community. So recently, one of our waste providers, Meridian Waste, came to the table. The contract they were currently under just didn't suit them anymore through changes in the economy and changes in the workforce. They needed an increase. So they came to the table, negotiated an increase with the city that didn't suit enough of what they wanted to do. So they came to council, said this is what we would like. The council approved it 17-2. The mayor vetoed it. She didn't agree with it. And then we overrode the veto historically, and it sat back with the executive branch to sign. They decided not to sign it. And then our general counsel formed an opinion, a legal binding opinion that says that basically we couldn't do that. So now we're at a standstill, and I think it's really a bit irresponsible and conducive or conductive of what the mayor's approach has been with the relationship with council. We are a 3-branch of government system. There's the executive branch, legislative, which is the council, and then the judicial branch. And we have the powers of the purse strings. So if we think that something should be funded, and 19 of us were elected to do so, and 17 out of 19 think it's a good idea, she should sign it and put it into law. I don't think this is going to end well. I think it'll go to litigation. I think Meridian Waste will probably win, and I think it'll end up costing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, because when you lose a case like that, you pay for their legal fees, you pay for their damages, and it's kind of an ugly mess, but it's just about the division of power. I think it's just the administration thinks that they can run the city like a dictatorship and forgetting about the legislative branch, which is here elected by the citizens as well.
Well, and that was what I was going to ask you about this opinion, because when I was reading it, it wasn't like, it's not about just Meridian. It's about whether or not you have the power to have overridden the veto, right? I mean, does that potentially curb council's power? Does this make it a more strong executive branch than a legislative branch?
It seems like that is the intent on this. I've spoken to several former general counsels of the city, and they disagree with this opinion. And some of those guys have a lot more experience in public affairs and public law than our current general counsel, who's a nice guy, but I don't think his expertise is in city government. So I read the opinion like everyone else, and we're sitting back going, all right, if this is the fight you want to pick, I don't think it's going to end well, but here we are. And then looking at waste increases, as one of my colleagues has filed, I'm just going to say now on air that I don't agree with that. I don't think the city has a problem with revenue. We've got about a $2 billion budget, but we've got a problem with where we want to allocate all those funds, and asking the taxpayers to pony up and double their garbage fee is a non-starter for me. We haven't heard an official position from the mayor's office on this, but I think that they're looking toward passing that legislation. So we'll see. We certainly have another hot one coming, as we always do.
Well, it's tricky because Mayor Deegan has had some real successes in the public eye, I think, with there was the stadium deal, police and fire, but these are not cheap. And then there's this, well, we're able to do it without raising taxes, but then this garbage fee over here is a different, it's like, I don't know.
It's basically a tax. You're asking the taxpayers to pay more than double what they currently pay. So I think it'd be more responsible us to find some ways to save a few dollars before we ask the citizens that work hard every day. I know the citizens in my community don't support it. I go to my round tables and my town halls and my community meetings every week in different parts of the district, and no one is on board that I can tell with raising those fees. They would like to see us be a little more responsible with the money we already have.
When it comes to the fees, though, I mean, they're not. Arguably, Jacksonville doesn't pay as much as surrounding communities, whether you consider that market rate or not. Do you feel like there's maybe some increase, or no, the money's there, that we have it, we should spend it before we go to the taxpayer?
Yeah, I think we should find a way to be more fiscally responsive and look at our $2 billion budget first.
Well, that was the next question, is on the budget, because it was a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this latest budget, yes. I wasn't on Finance Committee this year as the Vice President. You only typically serve on one committee, but I went to almost all of those meetings, and they did a yeoman's job on looking at that budget that was presented at a $47 million deficit and getting that down to $9 million deficit, which, in a perfect world, it'd be nice to have that balance, but we do have a reserve account, so we were able to pull a little bit out of that. But $47 million out of that was a big number, and there was no one in my community that was on board with that.
What do you think the biggest issues facing Jacksonville are today?
we are going to have to look at those budgets. Some of our revenue forecasts for the next couple of years have come in lighter than a lot of us would like. So we just have to look at where we spend the money. Obviously, we have to spend money on public safety, but that's doing pretty well. I think if you see Sheriff TK Waters and everything they're doing, murder rate down 52% from 23 to 24, that's groundbreaking. That means those guys are out there doing their jobs and keeping us safe. Fire department as well, they get after it. So we've got to fund those things. And then we have to look at, well, what's left? What are priorities? What do the citizens really want? And just be responsible and making good government.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? Well, I'm humbly serving as the vice president. I'll be obviously running for council president. So hopefully my colleagues have seen the leadership that I've shown and the support of our current president, Randy White, which is doing an amazing job. So those elections will be coming up in the spring. So I'd like to get in that seat and hopefully lead this body into the next year.
Yeah, well, good luck in your race. I appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time to meet with us. I appreciate it. And as always, you can catch our full episodes on This Week in the 904 on actionnewsjax.com. We have made it through, gosh, almost all city council. We've got just a few who are holding out on me, so hopefully we'll be able to get them in here. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks for watching This Week in the 904.